The atmosphere at Today with Jenna Friends was electric as Carrie Underwood made her anticipated appearance. Fans were excited to hear about her new album, her tour, and her thoughts on life after years of dominating the country music scene. The audience anticipated a friendly, casual chat with the superstar, but what happened next caught everyone by surprise. It started innocently enough, with Carrie and Jenna chatting about her music career. But the tone shifted when Jenna asked a seemingly innocuous question about Carrie's personal life. Carrie, known for her reserved and polite demeanor, was visibly caught off guard by the question. Jenna had asked about Carrie's struggles with balancing family life and her career, something that had been a recurring topic in media outlets. At first, Carrie answered diplomatically, saying that balancing both was difficult but rewarding. Jenna, sensing an opportunity for a deeper discussion, pressed it further, asking if the pressure of motherhood had affected her creative process. Carrie's smile faltered slightly, and the room grew tense as the question hit a nerve. "I think it's difficult for any mother, no matter what they do," Carrie said, trying to maintain her composure. "But I think it's also rewarding. I've always tried to keep my family life private, and I think that's important." The tension in the air was palpable, and Jenna, perhaps not fully understanding the emotional weight of the question, pushed on. "But doesn't that pressure you being a public figure, a mother, and a performer ever feel like it's too much?" Carrie's face tightened as she looked away briefly before answering, now visibly irritated. Carrie's body language had shifted. She crossed her arms, the smile was gone, and her eyes, usually warm and inviting, were now cold. "Look, I'm here to talk about my music and my work," she said, her tone becoming more clipped. "I don't think it's necessary to go into details about my personal life every time I sit down for an interview. I've done my best to balance both, but I think I've earned my right to keep some things private." The audience seemed to hold its breath as Jenna hesitated, her face showing a mix of confusion and concern. The uncomfortable silence lingered for a moment before Jenna apologized, but it wasn't enough to break the growing tension. Carrie, who had always been gracious with the media, felt something had crossed the line. She took a deep breath and attempted to redirect the conversation, but the damage was done. The questions were no longer about her music or her artistry, they were about her personal life, and Carrie had reached her limit. "Can we please focus on the reason I'm here?" she asked sharply, her voice laced with frustration. Jenna tried to salvage the moment by introducing a lighter topic about Carrie's upcoming tour, but the air was thick with unease. Carrie answered briefly, her enthusiasm for the subject noticeably absent. As Jenna continued to ask questions, Carrie's responses grew shorter and more disengaged. It was clear that she was no longer interested in participating in this line of questioning. The mood in the studio had shifted from celebratory to uncomfortable, and the crew could sense it. At this point, the tension was no longer contained. Carrie, who had always been known for her calm and gracious demeanor, stood up abruptly. "I'm sorry, but I think I've had enough," she said firmly, her voice unwavering. The audience, unsure of what was happening, watched in stunned silence as Carrie walked off the stage. Jenna, visibly flustered, attempted to call after her, but Carrie didn't turn back. The cameras cut to a shocked Jenna, who awkwardly tried to fill the silence, but the moment had already become legendary. Backstage, Carrie's team quickly moved to de-escalate the situation. Carrie, however, remained calm but visibly upset. "I didn't come here to be grilled about my personal life," she told her manager, her voice still steady but filled with disappointment. Her team reassured her that her reaction was justified, as the line of questioning had crossed into territory that she had made clear was off-limits. Carrie had always been protective of her private life, especially her family, and felt that she had been disrespected during an interview that was supposed to focus on her career. Jenna, on the other hand, was left stunned and embarrassed. Her producers quickly pulled her aside to discuss the situation, with some trying to assure her that she hadn't meant any harm. Jenna's face showed genuine regret. She had only wanted to ask a sincere question about the challenges Carrie faced as a working mother, but she hadn't anticipated the intensity of Carrie's reaction. "I didn't mean to upset her," Jenna later told her producers. "I was just trying to understand her perspective. I never expected her to walk off the show." The walk-off immediately went viral. Clips from the show were shared widely across social media, with fans and media outlets alike reacting to the shocking moment. Some expressed their support for Carrie, agreeing that her personal life was off-limits, while others defended Jenna, arguing that the question was not out of line. The incident sparked a larger conversation about the boundaries between personal and professional in celebrity interviews. Should journalists push for personal revelations, or should they respect the privacy of their guests? The following day, Carrie posted a message on social media, explaining her side of the incident. "I've always been transparent with my fans about the challenges I face as a working mother," she wrote, "but I also believe in maintaining a healthy boundary between my public and private life. I came on the show to talk about my music, not to discuss my family dynamics. I hope you all understand where I'm coming from." Fans flooded her post with supportive comments, many expressing their admiration for her for standing up for her boundaries. Jenna, meanwhile, issued a public apology on her social media accounts, acknowledging that she may have pushed Carrie too far during the interview. "I want to apologize to Carrie Underwood for making her feel uncomfortable," she wrote. "That was never my intention. I deeply respect her as an artist and a person, and I hope she knows that I admire everything she does. I'll learn from this experience and do better in the future." Many fans praised Jenna for taking responsibility, but others were still critical, arguing that she should have known when to back off. The incident quickly became one of the most talked about moments in talk show history. Media outlets debated the nature of the clash, with some arguing that it was a simple misunderstanding, while others saw it as a larger issue about the expectations placed on female celebrities. Carrie's reaction was interpreted by some as a stand for women's right to privacy, while others saw it as an overreaction. Regardless of where people stood on the issue, the moment had undeniably captured the public's attention. In the aftermath, there were calls from both fans and industry insiders to reconsider how celebrities are treated during interviews. Some argued that talk shows should create clearer boundaries regarding personal questions, while others suggested that celebrities need to develop thicker skin when faced with tough questions. The debate about personal privacy versus public interest continued to rage, but the incident between Carrie and Jenna had certainly made a significant impact on the conversation. For Carrie, the walk-off was a difficult but necessary moment. It reaffirmed her commitment to setting boundaries, even if it meant facing backlash from the media. She knew that her decision would be polarizing, but she felt that standing up for herself was more important than satisfying the expectations of others. In the weeks that followed, Carrie focused on her upcoming album and tour, continuing to prioritize her work and her family while remaining true to her values. As the media buzzed around the walk-off, Carrie continued to receive messages of support from fans and fellow celebrities. Many expressed admiration for her ability to set clear boundaries and protect her personal life. "Carrie Underwood is a queen," one fan wrote. "She's been through so much and deserves respect for the privacy she's worked hard to maintain. We're all just human." It was clear that Carrie's decision had resonated with many people, particularly those who had felt similarly pressured by the demands of public life. Meanwhile, Jenna continued to navigate the fallout from the interview. While many fans rallied behind her, some felt that she had crossed a line by pressing Carrie on such personal topics. In interviews that followed, Jenna addressed the situation with humility, acknowledging that the public's perception of her had shifted. She took the opportunity to reiterate her respect for Carrie and expressed her hope that the incident would be a learning experience for both her and her audience. As the weeks went by, the public's opinion on the clash began to settle. While some continued to criticize Carrie for walking off, many recognized the incident as a turning point in how the media approaches celebrity interviews. It wasn't just about one question or one celebrity, it was about the larger issue of respecting boundaries and recognizing that some topics are off limits, even for the most famous stars. The incident also had a lasting impact on the Today with Jenna Friends show. In the wake of the walk-off, The producers made a conscious effort to adjust the tone of their interviews. They began to prioritize questions that respected the privacy of their guests, and there was a noticeable shift in the overall direction of the show. It became less about sensationalizing personal lives and more about celebrating the work and artistry of the guests, creating a more comfortable environment for everyone involved. In the end, Carrie's walk-off became a powerful statement about the importance of boundaries in the celebrity world. It was a reminder that, no matter how famous or adored someone is, they deserve to have control over their own narrative. Carrie Underwood's decision to walk off Today with Jenna Friends wasn't just about one awkward interview. It was about sending a message that no one, no matter how successful, should ever feel pressured to reveal more than they're comfortable with. The incident between Carrie and Jenna continued to reverberate across social media and in entertainment circles for weeks after the walk-off. Media outlets published think pieces and opinion articles debating the ethics of celebrity interviews and the fine line between curiosity and respect. Experts weighed in on both sides, with some suggesting that Jenna had been too aggressive, while others defended her approach, arguing that celebrities should expect to answer difficult questions. However, the conversation had undeniably shifted toward how boundaries should be respected in a world where personal lives often become public property. Carrie, for her part, took the opportunity to speak more openly about her decision. In a later interview with a different show, she explained, "I'm not opposed to talking about real things. I've done that many times, but there are some things that should remain private. And I don't think it's fair to expect people to talk about their personal lives just because they're famous." Her calm but firm statement struck a chord with many people, especially those who felt that the pressure of public life was often too demanding. Carrie's stance reinforced her image as someone who was not only talented but also confident in defending her own boundaries. Carrie's walk-off was discussed in the context of other similar moments in entertainment history. It was compared to other famous celebrity interviews that had gone wrong, such as the infamous moments when Tom Cruise lashed out at Oprah or when Justin Bieber clashed with David Letterman. While these incidents were often seen as examples of celebrities losing their tempers or not handling the pressure, Carrie's moment was different. It wasn't a meltdown, it was a deliberate and controlled decision to walk away from a situation she found unacceptable. This distinction gave her a sense of agency in the eyes of many fans and critics. Meanwhile, the fallout from the walk-off had a significant effect on Today with Jenna Friends. Ratings for the show spiked in the immediate aftermath, with people eager to see how the show would handle the controversy. Some viewers were intrigued by the drama, while others tuned in to see how Jenna would address the situation. Despite the heightened attention, the show's tone shifted in future interviews. Jenna and her team began focusing more on the guests' professional lives, steering clear of personal questions unless the guest chose to open up about them. The walk-off, in some ways, led to a more respectful and professional approach to celebrity interviews. Behind the scenes, the producers of Today with Jenna Friends evaluated the situation and discussed the future direction of the show. There was a growing sense of awareness about the pressure to sensationalize interviews for the sake of ratings. While the producers acknowledged the importance of asking compelling questions, they also realized that respecting the privacy of their guests could lead to more meaningful, enjoyable interviews. The lesson learned was clear: while entertainment is the goal, respect for personal boundaries should always come first. Carrie's fans took to social media to express their admiration for how she handled the situation. "She's always been graceful and professional," one fan wrote, "but it's nice to see her stand up for herself when it matters." Many people shared their own stories of personal boundaries being crossed, and how Carrie's actions had empowered them to stand up for themselves in similar situations. The walk-off became a rallying cry for those who believed that celebrities like anyone else had the right to say no to questions that made them uncomfortable. One surprising result of the walk-off was how it sparked a larger conversation about the mental health of celebrities. In interviews following the incident, several psychologists and media experts discussed the emotional strain of constant public scrutiny and the unrealistic expectations placed on those in the public eye. The constant pressure to reveal personal details, often for the sake of a compelling narrative or ratings, could take a toll on anyone's well-being. Carrie's walk-off became a focal point for these discussions, and many people began to reconsider how the media interacts with celebrities. Over time, the walk-off became a defining moment not only for Carrie but also for the entertainment industry as a whole. Other celebrities who had faced similar invasive questions began to speak out, sharing their own experiences of having their privacy disregarded. It became a turning point in the broader conversation about celebrity culture and the ethics of celebrity journalism. Interviews that were once focused solely on sensationalism and the private lives of stars began to shift toward more thoughtful discussions of careers, achievements, and challenges. As the months passed, the fallout from the Carrie Underwood walk-off began to settle. The media moved on to other stories, and the initial controversy faded from public view. However, the impact of the incident remained. Carrie's decision to walk away from the interview was still being discussed in industry circles, and her actions were viewed as a powerful statement about the changing landscape of celebrity interviews. While some still questioned whether she had overreacted, many others saw her actions as a necessary reminder that even the most beloved stars deserve respect. In the end, Carrie Underwood's walk-off on Today with Jenna Friends became a turning point in her career, one that not only highlighted her music but also showcased her strength and resolve in the face of pressure. While it may have been a difficult moment for her personally, it was one that ultimately reinforced her commitment to privacy, boundaries, and self-respect. Carrie's fans admired her for showing that, while they may love her music, they also respected her as a person who would not be manipulated or pushed beyond her limits. As Carrie returned to her work and continued to promote her new projects, the legacy of the walk-off lingered. While the media may have tried to move on, her stance on boundaries had made a lasting impression. Fans and fellow artists alike looked up to Carrie for standing up for herself and setting a standard for how celebrities should be treated during interviews. Her career continued to thrive, and her music topped the charts, but the walk-off incident had solidified her as not just a country music star, but a champion of privacy and personal autonomy. Months after the incident, Carrie reflected on the moment in interviews, acknowledging that it had been a turning point for her. "I've always been someone who values respect both for myself and for others," she said, "but sometimes, in this industry, you have to take a stand for what's important." That walk-off wasn't just about one question, it was about making it clear that personal boundaries matter. Her words resonated deeply with fans, many of whom expressed their gratitude for her bravery in standing up for herself. The Today with Jenna Friends show, in the aftermath of the incident, underwent some significant changes. The producers made a conscious effort to cultivate a more respectful and thoughtful interview environment. They brought in consultants to help guide their approach to celebrity interviews, ensuring that questions about personal lives were only asked when the guest was comfortable. The show's ratings continued to do well, but there was a new emphasis on making sure that celebrities felt respected and valued for their contributions rather than their private lives. Carrie's walk-off also influenced the way other talk shows handled celebrity guests. Producers began to understand that while they might get higher ratings from controversial interviews, they could also foster goodwill and respect by allowing celebrities to control the narrative around their personal lives. Carrie's stance had created a ripple effect that led to a broader reassessment of how the media engages with celebrities, especially in an era when public figures are increasingly advocating for their mental health and well-being. The lasting impact of Carrie Underwood's walk-off was more than just a moment of television drama, it was a cultural shift. It was a reminder that even in the world of entertainment, where personal lives are often fodder for public consumption, boundaries must be respected. Carrie's actions showed that standing firm in the face of pressure wasn't just about defending privacy, it was about defining one's own terms in an industry that too often takes control away from its stars, and in doing so, she became an inspiration not just to her fans, but to anyone who had ever felt their boundaries were being disregarded. As the months went on, Carrie's decision to walk off the Today with Jenna Friends show continued to be a topic of conversation in media circles. Some industry professionals argued that celebrities needed to be more prepared to handle tough questions from journalists, especially in an era where the lines between public and private are increasingly blurred. But others were quick to defend Carrie, pointing out that celebrities, particularly women, are often pushed into discussing intimate aspects of their lives in ways that their male counterparts rarely face. Carrie's walk-off became a rallying cry for those advocating for a more respectful approach to media interactions. For Carrie, the walk-off wasn't about creating drama, it was about sending a message. In the years following the incident, she often referenced that moment as a defining one in her career. "There are times when you have to make a stand," Carrie said in one interview. "I love talking about my work, my passion, and my family, but there's a limit to how much I'm willing to share, and I think that should be respected." That's all I wanted. Fans, as well as fellow artists, praised her for maintaining control of the narrative, something many other celebrities struggle to do in the face of invasive questioning. Carrie's walk-off also sparked an interesting debate within the entertainment industry about the ethics of celebrity journalism. Was it appropriate for journalists to press celebrities on personal topics in an effort to get sensationalized stories, or did the growing interest in public figures' private lives violate basic journalistic ethics? This controversy sparked wider discussions about media responsibility, leading to a growing call for change in how celebrities were treated. In some ways, Carrie's walk-off had started a larger cultural conversation about the nature of fame and the responsibility of both journalists and public figures to balance privacy and transparency. Interestingly, while Carrie's walk-off was largely seen as a brave and empowering act, it also served as a cautionary tale for journalists and interviewers. Many began to reconsider the line of questioning they were willing to pursue in interviews. Some even took the opportunity to apologize publicly for moments when they had pushed guests too far. One prominent talk show host admitted to having asked invasive questions in the past and vowed to adopt a more respectful approach moving forward. The ripple effect from Carrie's walk-off was tangible, and it seemed to have changed the landscape of celebrity interviews for good. As the months went by, the Today with Jenna Friends show adapted to the changing climate by creating more structured interviews that emphasized creativity, career achievements, and personal passions over sensationalized topics. Jenna, who had initially been blindsided by the walk-off, admitted in a later interview that it had been a wake-up call for her. "I learned that it's important to create a space where my guests feel comfortable and in control of the conversation," she said. This shift in interview style not only helped rebuild her rapport with guests but also earned her praise for her willingness to learn from the experience. While the walk-off had been a dramatic moment, it ultimately gave Carrie an opportunity to take more control over how she interacted with the media. Going forward, she became known for her assertiveness in interviews. She made it clear that while she was happy to discuss her music, her career, and her creative process, there were topics that were off-limits. "I'm always open to sharing my experiences, but there are certain things that are sacred to me, and I think people should respect that," she said in one interview. Her transparency about her boundaries made her an even more relatable and admired figure to her fans. Carrie's walk-off also had a lasting impact on her relationship with the press. While the incident had initially caused tension, it ultimately allowed Carrie to develop a more direct and open relationship with journalists. She began to work with select outlets who respected her boundaries, and her interviews became more authentic as a result. Over time, she cultivated a reputation as someone who would always speak honestly, but also someone who would never allow herself to be exploited for the sake of entertainment. This newfound dynamic with the press helped her maintain a healthy balance between her public and private life. The broader entertainment industry began to take note of Carrie's example. In the wake of her walk-off, other public figures began to speak out about the need for boundaries in media interactions. High-profile stars, from actors to musicians, echoed Carrie's sentiment, advocating for greater control over how their personal lives were portrayed. While some were still hesitant to challenge the status quo, Carrie's actions showed them that it was possible to set limits and still maintain a successful career. Her walk-off had sparked a change, inspiring a new generation of celebrities to take charge of their own narratives. As Carrie's career continued to flourish, the walk-off remained a part of her story. It became a moment that her fans would point to as an example of her strength and resilience, and it added depth to her already impressive career. More than just a country music superstar, Carrie Underwood had become a symbol of self-respect and empowerment. Fans continued to rally behind her, not just for her music, but for the way she handled the pressure of fame. She had shown that it was possible to stand up for oneself without losing professionalism, and in doing so, she became even more beloved by her audience. In the years that followed, the Today with Jenna Friends show continued to thrive, but the lessons learned from the walk-off lingered. Jenna and her team became more mindful of their approach to interviews, understanding that the true value of a conversation lay in building trust and respect with guests. Carrie's influence on the show was undeniably. Her walk-off had served as a catalyst for positive change. It had forced the media to reconsider its relationship with celebrities, and the result was a more respectful and thoughtful approach to entertainment journalism.